Hello and welcome to episode 15 of Triumph Beyond Trauma. This week is a Men's Mental Health Week. Men's mental health is something that I am incredibly passionate about, and there are a few reasons for that. Of course, I have a husband and two sons. My inner circle of friends are mostly male, and I've always worked in industries that heavily populated by males. I know that men are more likely to not seek help for their mental illness due to stigma or whatever else may prevent that help seeking. But most importantly, men are around 3 times more likely than females to die by suicide, with 75.6% of all people to die by suicide in Australia in 2022 being men, 24.4% being female. These statistics, sadly, are not just numbers, they are humans. They are fathers, they are sons, husbands, boyfriends, uncles, and grandfathers, and they are friends. According to Beyond Blue research, there is about one first responder every 6 weeks that dies by suicide. But sadly, I think that it may be a little bit higher than that now. This Men's Mental Health Week, I want to encourage you to either go and seek help for anything that may be troubling you, whether you are male or female, it does not matter. Seek help in those early stages so it doesn't progress to the point where thoughts of suicide seem like your only option. Or reach out to your male friends, even the ones who seem to have it all going on okay, because you just never know. So send a text, make the phone call, meet up for a coffee, just be a good friend. Next week is launch week for the First Responder Mental Wellness Method. Get on the waitlist for early entry at tacticalyogaaustralia.com/waitlist. And as I mentioned in last week's episode, I am hosting a free 3-day tactical mind body mastery. So if you've heard the hype of breathwork, yoga, and mindfulness for mental health, and you want to give it a go, come along and join me on June 18, 19, and 20. It's just 45 minutes each day as we move through each of these practices. It's going to be very relaxed and hopefully a bit of fun. And you can join me there at tacticalyogaaustralia.com/mindbody. This week's guest is Sean Harron. I've come to know Sean through the charity Beyond the Badge. I attended their 2-day training a couple of weeks ago in Coffs Harbour, and it was amazing. Sean, along with co-founder Simon Bradstock, hosted the 2-day event at the Coffs Harbour Ex-Services Club and Park Beach Bowling Club. The training was really eye-opening and very well put together. If there are any first responders out there who are looking to get back into the workforce, but aren't too sure where to start, I highly recommend and actually encourage you to take a look at Beyond the Badge and take part in their program. Definitely well worth your time, and there were no role plays for those like me who hate that stuff. I'll link to these guys in the show notes. Now, Sean has over 30 years experience in law enforcement, corporate security, risk management, learning and development, International Air Express, and logistics. Sean started his career with the West Australia Police, serving in operational roles in general duties, the Tactical Response Group, Special Weapons Emergency Selection, and Weapons Training Section. Upon moving to Sydney, he was involved in several consultancies providing high-risk training programs to both commercial and government clients. During this time, Sean set up his own company and was responsible for the planning and delivering of the protective security operation for the 1996 and 2000 Olympic and Commonwealth Games Welcome Home Parades. Sean entered the air express industry in 2000 and subsequently spent the next 10 years with DHL, with responsibility for security in the Oceania region. He was responsible for policy development, risk management, security and investigations for over 30 facilities and approximately 2,000 staff within Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, Fiji and the Pacific Islands. During this time, he was a member of several key industry government committees on aviation and cargo security and appeared before parliamentary committees reviewing aviation security in Australia. He was also the former chairman of the Security Subcommittee for the Conference of Asia Pacific Express Carriers. He has worked with other global companies as part of his consultancy. Sean holds tertiary qualifications in security and risk management, work health and safety, government investigations, and training and assessment. Since 2018, Sean has been involved in providing career transition services for first responders, specifically New South Wales Police, through the charity Beyond the Badge, which he set up with his mate and business partner, Simon Bradstock. He is passionate about ensuring first responders are looked after once they leave their agencies after their service. So with all that said, let's get into it. Welcome to Triumph Beyond Trauma, the podcast that explores journeys of resilience and hope. I'm Rosie Skeen, a yoga and breathwork teacher and founder of Tactical Yoga Australia. As a former soldier's wife, mum to 3 beautiful kids and a medically retired New South Wales police officer with PTSD, I understand the challenges of navigating mental health in the first responder and veteran community. Join us for incredible stories from individuals who've confronted the depths of mental illness and discovered their path to happiness and purpose, as well as solo episodes and expert discussions. Together, we'll uncover the tools to help you navigate your journey toward a brighter, more fulfilling life. Whether you're looking for helpful insights, practical tips, or just a friendly reminder that you're not alone, Triumph Beyond Trauma has got your back. You matter, and your journey to a happier, more meaningful life starts right here. Welcome to the podcast, Sean. Thank you so much for joining me.
Very excited to be here. Thank you.
So, Sean, usually I start the podcast with just a little bit of your backstory and how you've come to be where you are today with Beyond the Badge.
Okay, so I joined the West Australian Police Force in April 1978. And I had 15 years service in WA. Loved every minute of it. Well, mostly. And I ended up, fortunately, in the WA Police TRG, the tactical team, which was formed full-time in 1978, which was actually formed in 1985.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed the work, and I think I found myself. I wanted to sort of join the military some time ago. So for me, it was like the answer to that. And I did actually have 6 years in the Army Reserve. In 1992, I left the police. I didn't know I had PTSD, but it was diagnosed some years later. But I had a number of incidents that had occurred, and I made a decision to leave. And I moved from Perth to Sydney. I was having a long distance relationship at the time. And fortunately, Julie still put up with me for all this time, which has been amazing. So I moved over here in July 1992. I was 34 years of age. I felt good in myself. I didn't have any particular issues other than I was angry with what had happened to me and why I left the cops. And then the preceding sort of 12 months, my sort of work life kind of fell apart because I had nothing. I had no one to go to talk to. I didn't know how to apply for a job. I didn't even know what sort of job I might do. I think I sort of came over here on spec a little bit early. I found out later I had ADHD as well as PTSD, and I think that hasn't helped in terms of decision making. So I landed here. Julie was busy. She was nursing and going to work early, coming home reasonably late. And I was really lost for about 12 months. I thought about going back, and I made a mistake. I actually went to apply for the dole up in Sutherland. And I remember sitting there and having an interview and filling out some forms. And the lady asked me if I had a particular form that had shown that I had exited the cops in WA, and I didn't have it. And just to short circuit things, I made a phone call and I rang staff office in Perth, and the guy who answered the phone, I had worked under. He was an inspector. And when I asked him, told him what I was doing, he said to me, "What the fuck are you doing?" That's what he said to me. And it just shocked me. And I realized that I was in a bad way at the time. And a week or so later, I just reached out to someone that I'd met on a national exercise who was in the cops here in New South Wales, and also ran a small training business. And I reached out to him, and he said, "Do you want a couple of days work a week?" And I started off from there, and I realized really quickly, like within weeks, that what I'd be missing was that I wasn't using the skills I had. And I realized that even though I didn't want to go back to policing, I realized that I had some enormous skills that I should be using. And over the over the next 12 months or so, him and I, put together a business, and I was running it out of an office in Woollahra in Sydney, and had these fancy business cards that, said National Training Manager, National Sales Manager. And I was selling training. I was making cold calls. I was having the time of my life, and I was enjoying what I was doing again. I was running Robbie training, got involved with some Australian Protective Services, running counter-terrorist first response training, all this kind of stuff, which for me was, business as usual, but in a different world. And I found my feet. And, to cut a long story short, I also had some issues with starting a family. I felt a complete failure. Julie and I ended up fostering two beautiful little girls and then finally adopting them after 10 years. And, those two beautiful girls are now in their mid-20s and doing incredibly well. So it all came together after time. And I've tonked along for the last 25 years or so, working in the corporate world, worked for some great companies and worked for myself and done some great things. And again, all from, a senior constable leaving the cops with what I thought was not a lot in terms of skills, to have done some great things, worked with some great companies. And I finished up, my last big role was with Australia Post, or Star Trek Australia Post, maybe 6 or 7 years back. And I'd sort of had enough then of working in the corporate space, and I started doing a bit of consulting again. And Simon Bradstock, who had become a close mate of mine, who was a former New South Wales police officer, approached me and said, look, he'd lost a very close mate of his, Cole Young, to suicide, who had struggled outside the job. And he'd approached Police Legacy about what more we could do. So we put our heads together and we ended up putting together this program and setting up Beyond the Badge, which is a not-for-profit charity. And through Police Legacy and Backup for Life program and Esther Mackay in 2018, we kicked off this program and been doing it now for 6 years. And we put over 300 people through the program, mainly New South Wales Police, but we now do an online program. So we've been able to reach people from all states and all jurisdictions, federal police, paramedics, a few fireys, corrective services. So we put our feelers out a lot further. It's been such a wonderful thing for our own mental health too. It's given us a reason to get up every day and give back. And we know that we've helped. Not everyone's got a job. Not everyone's been ready to get a job, but the bulk of people who've come through the program have just got reinvigorated. And I think the biggest thing that we've realised too is that it's not just about getting jobs. It's this. I like to refer to it as a sort of mental health carousel. People get on it and they go round and round, and some people don't get off.
I agree.
And I think what we try and do is reach out, and for those who are ready, grab their hand and say, hey, there is a way out of this and there's a way forward. And I think, we're not a mental health program. We're not psychologists by any means, but it's been really clear, we've got evidence to prove it now and to show that people's just general well-being and their families' well-being are benefited by coming on the program and moving on and just understanding there is life after policing and after the trauma and after the PTSD. And I think it's been a really positive thing for so many people. And look, we've had a handful that have come up and said, guys, you basically saved my life. That's pretty powerful stuff, because it's given them a reason to live and keep going and find that there is a life after policing. And that's been really important.
Yeah. I think I've obviously taken part in the program today as day one of two. And even I've seen within the room, people's attitudes have changed. Not that there was any bad attitudes, but the confidence was obviously a bit higher at the end of the day than what it was at the start. I would even say my own confidence just with our skill set that we don't even realize that we have. And you keep that. That doesn't go anywhere when you leave a job like the police. Is that what you see a lot as well?
Yeah, it's a great pickup. And I think, one of the most exciting things, I actually said to Simon yesterday, do you ever get sick of running the program? And our answer, both of us, the answer is simply no, because every group's different. And it's that, and I think I even said it this morning, it's that light bulb moment that you look around the room and you see people when they come in. And one of the things we do is talk to people before they come on the program, sort of bit of a get to know. And you know people are a bit anxious when they turn up, and you look around the room and people aren't sure what's going to happen. But within, generally by morning tea time, you see a massive difference in people's demeanour and confidence. And I think people just start to go, wow, if these guys have done it, we've seen some examples. We hear from some of our supporters and sponsors, and they start to go, wow, I think I could do this. And it's a real awakening, and it's exciting to see every time. And then by the end of day 2, and then, I follow up with day 3, it's, we talk about the Beyond the Badge family now, and people, every time we have a program, it's another group that join the family, and it's very rewarding for us. But yeah, to see people's awakening and walk away on day 2 and say, thanks for what you've done, and just know they've got that confidence and they can look a bit better into the future and understand that, there is a life out there for them, and they can come back to us when they need a bit more help to move on. We make that offer too. We're always here for people, and we're happy to follow up and help. And it's been a fantastic thing to do. I do want to mention too that we're doing this today at Club X in Coffs Harbour, and I want to give the clubs a plug because, but for them, we wouldn't be here. We had some initial funding through Backup for Life, and that disappeared about 3.5 years ago. So the clubs have been fantastic to us, and they support and sponsor the program. So, and we always have people from the club. We had 2 wonderful people come along today to talk about how the club works and why they support the program. And they bring some fantastic, uplifting, I suppose, news about how recruitment really works and, make it a bit more achievable for people in the program. So, big thanks to the Club X today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Park Beach Bowling Club tomorrow.
Park Beach Bowling Club tomorrow. Can't wait.
Yeah. I think something that I personally have struggled with since leaving the police, and it's skills-based as well, but having the confidence to even think about having another job as a person with PTSD and anxiety and depression and seasonal affective disorder. I've got 4 mental health conditions, but the capacity that I might have to not only create a resume and apply for a job and maybe even get a phone call or an interview and go through that whole process, and then eventually having a job and then having to go to work after being off work for a few years. But something that Simon said today was, there are part-time jobs out there and there are casual jobs that you can do. Is that something that you see a lot of people struggling with when they come through your program?
Yeah, absolutely. And, we heard Jill this morning from Club X talk about, the direct question was asked about people with mental health issues and been off work for a while. How does the club and how would employees see them? And her response was so refreshing and powerful that, at a place like this, there's all different types of roles. They understand that not everyone has got superhuman sort of capabilities and wants to work 50 hours a week. They understand people have got issues. And I think it was pretty clear they'd prefer to know what those issues were rather than not know. And a lot of the clubs we talk to, they say the same thing. They'd rather know someone's got particular things going on in their lives. At least they can work around them. And what they're really interested in is what you can bring, not those other bits and pieces that are part of you, but what you can bring. And if that means that you can come and give, 3 days a week, and that's enough for you, that's great for them, as long as they understand and they can help and support you with your, with the other things going on in your life. So I think, it's a great point. And I think it's probably one of the biggest things that former first responders worry about is that I won't be able to work again. And we know that some are even told that in the process they go through medically, that they get told by certain people that you won't work again. And that's frightening.
Yeah.
And we've had those people on the program, and they are working again in a different capacity. And at the end of the day, there's some great companies out there who they look for the good in people, and they're happy to work around the private issues that people are having. So that's important to know. When you hear that from people from the club and from a prospective employer, that they're happy to look at your as happy to look at you as a whole person
Yeah.
and what you can bring to them if they can support you. It just makes a better workplace for them. So, yeah, it's a big issue for people, but it's absolutely something that can be overcome.
Yeah. I really like that the two people from the club came and spoke to us today, because support is not always, it feels like it's a lot of lip service when you're in a job like the police, and
Sure.
not very supportive of families. The rostering's not supportive of a home environment that's conducive to having a family, unfortunately, sometimes. So it is nice to see that other side, because otherwise we wouldn't see that there are businesses and companies that would support people like us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, the other thing to bear in mind is that you don't have to be looking for that huge executive, 6-figure salary. Some might, but, our advice is to take the small steps and find a company that's willing to accept you for who you are. And you might just find that in 6 to 12 months, you've sort of found your feet again. There's another opportunity either within that organisation or somewhere else. And you want to take another step up. It's important that, we don't overwhelm ourselves initially, because that's pretty confronting, but just to find your way. And, if you want to do a couple of days a week at a Bunnings or something, or, that's fine, because you'll start to get the confidence back and start mixing with people again. And look, we always say that you'll probably stand out a bit in an organisation because of your background, and will be recognised for, being a doer and getting stuff done. And, you'll often get a tap on the shoulder. Hey, Rosie, would you like to, have a look at this new role? And we've even heard stories. It's not uncommon for companies to build a new role around people because they can see what you bring. So, there's just so many opportunities if you put yourself out there. Again, with the small steps and get some support and help through us, and just start to take that journey one step at a time.
Yeah. So important to what you said there about becoming overwhelmed, because I think like I said, the whole process can be overwhelming. So just starting with what you can handle at the time and building from there is really important.
Yeah, and just on that too, I think, I'm very conscious of when we do a program, as much as we work hard and build that trust and try not to overwhelm people. I know people, walk away after the program, and maybe a week later or a month later or 6 months later, start to actually think about looking for a job. And again, it's at that point, it can be overwhelming. It's like a lot of courses you go and do at the time, you think, wow, this is great. Then it can be a break before you actually start the process. So we've been very clear about contacting us again when you're ready. So we give you the information, the tools, the links, the connections. But, I got a lady rang me 2 weeks ago that did one of our first programs in 2018. She hasn't been ready for all that time.
Oh, wow.
She rang me 2 weeks ago and said, look, I know it's been a while, but I've got this opportunity. Can you help me? And that was great, just to reconnect. And we're here to do that. So, we're pretty clear. We don't write resumes for people. We think they can do that themselves with some guidance, but we're happy to connect and review resumes. We can help people link in with organisations and even organise a coffee with various people to see what industries might be like. And there's a whole bunch of things that we can do as a follow-up. And I think it just gives those people that, have that little break before they're ready, a touch point to come back and say, hey, I met the guys, 3 years ago. I know they're still there. I know if I make a phone call, they're going to help me, move on again. So we don't just do the 2 or 3 days and sort of drop you off. It's important that we maintain that relationship. So we're here when you need us.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, a lot of people would appreciate that. For sure.
Absolutely.
So you said that you run your program online across the country. Are you just traveling in person in New South Wales?
Yeah, at the moment, how it works with our funding and with the club. So we run a program at the club. So we've got a number of clubs within Sydney where we run the program. And, we've been lucky enough to do some regional stuff the last couple of years in Wagga, Albury, Central Coast, Cops. And that's really important too, because we all know that regional people miss out on a lot of things.
They do, yeah.
So we want to get out to the regions, but the online's been great. So we generally run the online, like day one, we'll go into a club that sponsors the program, and we'll have the guests as well from the club to talk, and we'll do that online. So we might sit in their boardroom and do that. So we might have a CEO and an HR person, people person, exactly what we did today. So it's the same format, but we do that online. And then, basically day two is done from our own home office type setup, and that's how we do that. So, and that's just been a great opportunity to reach so many more people. And there's probably, there is people too who may not be from interstate, but aren't quite ready to come and sit in a room for 2 days. We get that. So the online's been a great forum for those people who, they could essentially sit a name in their jammies and do the program online. And that's been really good. So it's given us a lot more coverage of not just other jurisdictions, but those who are just not quite confident enough to come and jump in a room with other, first responders for 2 days.
How many courses do you run a year?
Yes, that's a great question. Again, it's
funding based.
Yeah, it's based on funding. But look, it's been we've been lucky enough to run pretty much a program a month. So we might have a break. The way the funding cycle goes with the club, we'll have a regroup in June, which is just coming up to get ourselves ready for the next sort of cycle. But we generally kick off in July, late July, early August, and generally go right through. So we do a program a month generally. And again, that's a mix of online and face-to-face. Yeah. And look, those, we're able to cater with the face-to-face. We've had numbers up to sort of 16, 20 is probably the max for face-to-face. Otherwise, it just gets too big.
Yeah.
Online, obviously, doesn't make that much difference. We can cater for, 3 or 30 sort of thing. So that's a bit more flexible.
When you're running one of these programs a month, how do you support your own mental health with that? Because I can imagine that even though you've been doing it for a few years now, you're dealing with people that have heightened levels of anxiety and stress, and you have to make them feel comfortable with you in a very quick amount of time, like you said. So how do you manage that within yourself and being away from your family when you travel? Is there certain things that you do to support your own health?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Simon and I, I'm getting on for a bit of that age too, but Simon's 10 years younger than me, but we both keep ourselves fit. And we talk a lot. We always have a debrief after each program. If it's in the city and we're driving, to or from, we're always talking about how we're going and discussing certain people on the program, etc. But we both have really good support works at home as well. Got wonderful partners that support us, and I think having that support network and keeping fit, it's always been a big thing for both of us, and getting harder as I get older, but it's important. I still train every morning. Look, I could probably do a lot more in terms of meditation, that type of thing. I'm probably a little bit old school myself in terms of what I do, but I feel the program itself gives me I don't find it burdensome now helping these people. It's in a way it gives me power, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah.
It fulfills me. I look around at a lot of things, and I've got two beautiful daughters who had a real bad start in life, and in terms of fostering and their circumstance. And, I look around me every day and I see these incredible charities and struggles in life, and I think, you could be doing a lot of things to help people, and, you try and keep busy. But I refocus with all that, and I just, I realise that the people that we're helping have given so much. They're not struggling. They're not just, or they are struggling, but they're not reaching out sort of for charity or for that. They've given, 10, 20, 30, 40 years sometimes to the community. And, just the idea of paying back and helping them move on gives me strength. I know it gives Simon strength, and it lets us pay homage to those who we lost early on that made us kick this thing off. I lost a very close mate of mine too shortly after Simon's incident with his mate. Every time we deal with someone and help them, for me, it pays homage to those guys and those who we have left behind. And that gives me strength, and that helps my mental health.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, it's a great question now. I think I'm thinking deeper about it, but it's not something that, I know often people that are involved with charities and people that are struggling, they get burned out and bogged down. I haven't felt like that. I felt, in the 5 years we've been doing this, is our 6th year. I feel it's given me more strength. I feel better probably about myself than when I started, because we're better at doing it. We're getting better results. We're seeing more and more people come on the program, younger people too, often. Yeah, so I think it strengthens me more than anything.
Yeah, I resonate with that. I mean, I know myself that, even having this podcast and doing what I do with Tactical Yoga Australia and just trying to give back definitely fulfills me, but it can be exhausting. That's why I'm switching, because I know that I really have to keep a check of my own energy. And my husband keeps on top of me for that.
Yeah.
He's good, tells me not to do too much, but it can get overwhelming, and the joy that you can get from helping other people shouldn't be at the detriment of your own self. So
look, maybe that's the other part, but I think I've got a pretty good balance, because this is essentially all I do now. I might pick up a bit of consultancy work from time to time, but this is essentially what I do. But I don't, I've had some big jobs over the years and I've worked long hours and travelled a lot. I don't allow myself to do that now. So my days are pretty balanced. If we're not running a program, there'll be days where I might talk to 2 or 3 people online. They might be making inquiries about the program, and I'll always talk to them at the start. Or it might be a follow-up, checking a resume, but it's not crazy hours and crazy days. And I think that's been a good thing. So I've got a good balance.
yeah,
I work from home. I could go and jump in the pool and cool off in summer or that sort of thing, or go for a walk, or go and do something else. So it's not crazy busy that I sort of, at the end of the day, go, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. It's manageable. And I think I've learned that over the years to manage my time better and not burn myself out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Skill in itself, I think.
Something so I was a weapons and tactics trainer with New South Wales Police. And you did that as well, didn't you? And so did Simon.
Yeah.
And I think I really found my feet there in the police, because I joined, like a lot of people do. Like, I just wanted to help people. I didn't know how I was going to do that in the police, but that's what I wanted to do. And I found that after I did that course, and then I started helping police keep themselves safe on the street, that was me. I was totally happy to do that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out long term and I had to leave. But now is what I'm doing now. Like, my target audience is police, because I really enjoy helping them help themselves. And now it's sort of not so much physically keeping them safe, but mentally helping them through whatever they're going through. Is that something that you found as well? Like, you've sort of come back after being in corporate for a long time, and you found that you still have that sort of mateship even with those people?
Most definitely. For me, I didn't just leave the cops. I left my home state.
Yeah.
I grew up in Perth. Came from 10-pound Poms, came to Perth when I was 7, went back to England and Ireland when I was 10. But I spent most of my life up to the early 30s in WA. So when I'd come over to New South Wales, I left a lot of things, not just my job and my career, my family who was still there, my friends. And for those first few years, I didn't want to connect, like a lot of us, you don't want to connect with cops anymore. But I found, and probably more so through my work at DHL, I was the Oceania security manager, started getting involved with, the federal police and fraud and theft matters, and dealing with the local police and detectives. And I realised that I missed it. but I was able to be part of it in a different way, and that was good. I think back now, and one of the things that sticks in my mind was, because the listeners would understand that being a large logistics company doing international freight, that narcotics and what have you is part of that unknowing, part of that sort of, and we were getting phone calls from the AFP. Can we have this? Can we have vehicles for covert deliveries and things? I kind of came on board, and I had because I had the confidence, and I was able to talk to these guys and not be confronted by them. I was able to say, no, we're not going to do that, and started to manage things. So I built up some great relationships with law enforcement agencies and got involved with projects in Canberra around aviation security, and that for me I was sort of back in the game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that excitement you get on a job or whatever, but it was still feeling part of that big team again. And then when we kicked this off, it really brought me back to, for me, being a WA copper, coming to New South Wales, you still get bagged and for various things. But for me, it's been, and I talk about family, I feel like I'm back in the Blue family, and it's been this great acceptance. Whether Simon's talking about his work here and the people he's worked with who will bump into every couple of programs. For me, it's like it doesn't happen to me very often because I come from another state, but I really feel part of that family again. And now that's been good for my mental health.
Yeah.
At the start, you want to get away from it, but now I'm really enjoying being back in it and being accepted for what. And it's been 30 years, actually 32 years for me. I've been out of the cops twice as long as I was in.
Yeah.
I still feel exactly the same. My girls still think me as a policeman, and I like that.
Yeah.
That's still part of who I am. I think that's important too on the program, that people don't leave that behind, that they bring all that stuff with them that they've got. That's part of who we are.
Yeah.
But you sort of reinvent it in a different way.
I liked it when you both were talking about that today, because I think we do think that maybe it's not suited to a more corporate environment, especially maybe our sense of humor. We could tone that down a little bit, but like just knowing that our skills aren't going to be wasted, and the way that we carry ourselves will actually transfer into some other environment. And I was really
absolutely. Look, often you'll find, again, I've been lucky to find workplaces where there might be a number of ex-cops in there. So you get back to that old banter and, acceptable levels of banter and humour, but it doesn't necessarily disappear. I think you find your way back to those pockets where, and look, things like LinkedIn and talking about networks, we'll talk a bit more about it tomorrow, but people will start to reach out and find you and say, hey, looking for someone to fill a role, let's catch up for a coffee. And often they're people you worked with in the past, and they start to find you again. So, I know it's a fear that you might be right away from that and never have it again, but I've been lucky enough to find that most of my 30-ish years in the corporate world, I've gravitated around law enforcement type things anyway. So I haven't gone far from home.
Mm-hmm. If there's one thing that you would want to tell people that might be listening and they've left the police, or they might be thinking about transitioning out of the police, and they're worried for whatever reason, whatever things hold them back, like we did on the Post-its this morning, what's one thing that you would say to them that would give them hope that, maybe they should take a little step forward? And
I'll say a couple of things.
Okay. You can have a couple of things.
If I'm allowed.
You're allowed.
I think first of all, Simon and I are great examples. We both left the job as senior constables, which I still reckon is probably the best rank in the job in. We weren't brain surgeons. We were tactical operators, and we've done them really well. I think I think the lesson people need to think about or understand is that you've done a unique job. Don't ever think of yourself as just a cop. I know that's a cliche, but it's a unique, incredible opportunity that you've undertaken. And whether it's 2 years, 5 years, 10, 20 years, doesn't matter. It's something that you've put your hand up to go and do. You have to even go and do it. You've got some inherent skills and some know-how, but then to do it for a period of time, you're going to pick up some incredible things that people in the real world or the other world will absolutely recognise. You'll stand out because, you saw a video this morning, Michelle Glasgow, who's doing some great things down in Wollongong, general manager of a domestic violence organisation. She put it beautifully by saying, cops get shit done. And I think that's the thing is that, we talk to a lot of employees out there and they keep saying we just can't find good people. And there's there's a huge untapped resource of police and emergency service people out there who, and this is the gap because many of them don't believe in themselves. Many employers haven't discovered this market yet. So we're sort of busily working to try and
Bridge that gap.
bring them together and
Yeah.
go, whoa, I didn't realize that these companies, would accept me, and the companies are going, whoa, I didn't realize you guys bring these incredible skills. So I think just be confident and understand that back yourself. You've got some great things behind you, and there will be a role out there for you. There might not be the first one, might be the second or third one. Some of our guys and girls who come through the program are on their third or fourth job. That's not because they fail; it's because they've succeeded and they're looking to better themselves each time. And they learn more each time. They meet more people, and they just start to build that network and find that right place. And we talk a lot about culture on day 2, and we know that there's some great workplaces out there. And let's face it, there's still some ordinary workplaces where you may not fit, but it's just realizing that there will be a place for you. It's just taking that time to find the right place and be confident and having some support around you. And that's what we do.
I also enjoyed what you guys were saying about finding a role that suits you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you might not want to work at night or, whatever your situation might be, that's okay as well. Especially for first responders, that's generally not okay.
Absolutely.
You have to do what you're told and turn
Absolutely.
up when you're told to. So that was refreshing to hear, actually.
And I'll talk a lot more about that tomorrow, and I'll talk about my experiences in certain roles because it's important for people to understand, again, that not every organisation is going to be a good experience. Not every, you might think, I left the cops because I had trouble with my last command or whatever and couldn't do it anymore. And it's still going to be wonderful outside. Well, we've got to be honest with people. It's not always. There's still, managers and supervisors out there who don't get things, but the beauty is you've now got choice. You don't have to just accept the posting you've got or the place you've ended up. You've got choice. And nowadays people move on. Back in the day, people joined an organisation and spent 20 years there. Well, nowadays, I think the stats will support my saying this, but the average it's 2 or 3 years, mate.
Wow.
That's the norm. People move on. So that's an expectation now. So you don't have to worry about not fitting in right away. I taught this morning about a job I spent 7 weeks in. It was just a terrible fit, and I needed to get out of there, and that's okay. You've got some choice. You've got a choice now. You can take your time, find the right role. If you don't want to work full-time, that's okay. If you can't work Fridays, that's okay. You find a place that will accept what you can do, and you bring your best, and those roles are out there. So I think that's the important thing I understand is that you've got choice. You don't have to jump into a massive big job and drown yourself. You can take those small steps and do something small, and if you're okay, then build it up. If not, stay there. And there's opportunities there for other types of work. There's voluntary work, and there's some great volunteering organisations that you can spend some time in, even just to build your confidence. So lots of different ways of moving on, and then assessing every 6 or 12 months and going, what, I'm okay just doing this, or I now want to take on something bigger, and finding those opportunities. It's a big world out there, and there's some great things to do. Just getting that, it's just getting started.
Yeah. Gotta
And
make
that's
that first
the
step.
challenge, is getting started. And that's why we started Beyond the Badge, because we know how hard it is.
Yeah. I think even myself coming here today, appreciating that you guys have both been where everyone in the room has been,
Yeah.
it does make such a difference because cops are special people. Like,
Mm.
we don't like a lot of outsiders. Naturally, we gravitate towards each other. So for those of us that have left and we haven't gone anywhere else yet,
Yeah.
it's nice to have people like yourself and Simon that sort of, take us under your wing and say, it is going to be okay. Here's some things that you need to do. And then you give the tools and support to enable us to do that.
Yeah, look, our vision when we kicked this thing off was to, we know there's things out there, and we talked about some of those today. You can get RPL for things, you can get resumes written from people, but you still got to understand the process. You've got to understand how to get through an interview. There's a whole range of things. So I think what we set about to do, our initial vision was to create a pathway so that we can, essentially grab your hand and walk you along the pathway so you feel confident and safe, give you what you need, as you say, a toolbox, and then a place to come back to, at any time. When you leave us or leave home base, you can call us any time and say, hey, you just remind me about this, or do you know anyone at this particular company, and we can connect you with, and often we're able to do that and provide that extra assistance. So I think it's nice to know that there's a backup.
Yeah.
If you fall over, you can pick up the phone or send us an email or connect on LinkedIn, and we're there to help you. So
just on that, where
Yes.
can people find you at Beyond the Badge?
yeah, so we have a website, which is beyondthebadge.com.au.
I'll link to it in the show note.
We have we're on LinkedIn. So I've got a personal profile on LinkedIn. We have a Beyond the Badge profile on LinkedIn. We've got a Facebook page, and we're on the end of the phone.
Yeah, great.
And the other important thing is, we don't just throw anyone on a program. It's not a place where you jump on a website and just book in and come on. We will always make that initial phone call and have a chat. And that does a couple of things. It creates a relationship. It creates a level of safety for people. It lets us know if you're ready. And there's been probably less than a handful of people that we've sort of said, look, maybe give it 6 months or so, come back to us, and you're probably not quite ready to do the program. I mean, it's not overly overwhelming at all, but it's just some people are just not quite ready.
Not there yet.
And that's okay. We can have that conversation then. And at least then when they come on the program on day one, they've had a chat to us, and they've got a level of confidence, and that it's a safe place. The other part to that too, in terms of safety, is we're an independent charity, so we don't report to anyone. We don't get funded by an agency or an insurer. The funding at the moment and will continue to be independent, and that way, whoever comes on the program has got the knowledge that we're not reporting back to anyone and saying, oh, so and so fell asleep on day 2, and they're a shocker. It doesn't happen. So that's the other important factor.
Which is important, because I know that a lot of us are concerned with what programs you may or may not take part in, and who that gets back to. So
Sure.
it does make you feel a lot safer taking part in the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Sean. I've really appreciated it. I very much appreciate what you and Simon are doing personally for myself and for our friends and family in Blue. Something that is, I actually can't believe that you've only had 332 people go through the program so far. So I hope those numbers jump up, because it's an underutilized resource, I think, and you have the potential to really help a lot of people, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And thank you for what you do. And and hopefully we can help each other to spread the word and help more of our Blue family. So thanks for the opportunity today. It's been a real pleasure.
You're very welcome. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you have, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss any new ones. We release fresh content every Tuesday. And while you're there, take a moment to leave us a review. I would genuinely appreciate your thoughts. Don't forget to connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Tactical Yoga Australia and share this episode with your friends, family, and workmates to spread inspiration. Your support means the world. My name is Rosie Skeen. Join me again next week for another empowering and positive episode of Triumph Beyond Trauma. Until then, be kind to your mind and trust in the magic of your consistent and positive efforts. Triumph beyond your trauma is closer than you think. Have the best week.